Please, honey, Nana Ruth really needs you right now. She's not feeling well at all." My Donna Collins voice crackled through the phone, heavy with what I now know was fake concern. I sat in my condo in St. Paul, surrounded by the luggage I had packed for our big family Lake Michigan retreat, my excitement quickly deflating into worry. "Of course I'll stay," I replied without hesitation. "The Lake Michigan retreat isn't important if Nana Ruth needs help." Those words would come back to haunt me just hours later. My name is Leah Collins, and I'm 28 years old all my life. I've tried to be the responsible daughter, the one who could be counted on when things got tough, but that dedication to family was about to be tested in ways I never imagined. I had been looking forward to this Lake Michigan retreat for months. It was supposed to be our first real getaway in years. Me, my parents, my younger sister, Sophie Collins, and a few other relatives. I'd even taken time off work and bought new summer clothes. But when Donna Collins called about Nana Ruth being in the urgent care, I didn't think twice about canceling that evening. As I was driving to the urgent care, my phone buzzed with a notification Sophie Collins had posted on social media. My heart stopped as I looked at the image my entire family on the Lake Michigan retreat ship, champagne glasses raised in celebration best vacation ever. So blessed to have such an amazing family. Lake Michigan retreat. Life, family time. The caption read. I pulled over my hands, shaking as I stared at the photo there. They were Donna Collins, Rick Collins, Sophie Collins, my aunts and uncles all smiling broadly on the deck of the ship. They had lied to me. They had deliberately excluded me from the getaway, using my beloved grandmother as an excuse. When I finally arrived at the urgent care, there was no record of my grandmother being admitted. My calls to my parents went straight to voicemail. Had blocked me on social media within minutes of my seeing her post. The betrayal felt like a physical blow, knocking the wind out of me. I drove to Nana Ruth's house, tears blurring my vision. To my surprise, her lights were on. When I knocked, she opened the door, looking perfectly healthy and more than a little confused to see me in such a state. "Tara, what's wrong, sweetheart?" Nana Ruth asked, pulling me into a warm embrace. The familiar scent of her lavender perfume brought fresh tears to my eyes as we sat in her cozy living room. The truth came pouring out: the cruise, the lies, the social media posts that had shattered my world. "I don't understand," I said, wiping my eyes. "Why would they do this to me? Why lie about you being sick?" Nana Ruth's face darkened with disappointment. She had always treated Sophie Collins and me equally. But my parents were a different story growing up in St. Paul. I had watched them consistently favor my sister. When Sophie Collins wanted dance lessons, they found the money. When I needed help with college tuition, I had to take out loans. I thought about all the times I'd visited Nana Ruth over the years, helping her with groceries, taking her to doctor's appointments, or just sitting together looking through old photo albums. Sophie Collins rarely visited unless she needed something. Usually money, yet somehow she was still the golden child in our parents' eyes. "Your mother called me last week." Nana Ruth revealed, her voice tight with anger. "She asked me to play along. If you came by to pretend I had been in the urgent care, I refused." Of course, I had no idea they would actually go through with this scheme. The Lake Michigan retreat tickets hadn't been cheap, nearly $2,000 per person for a week-long Caribbean adventure. I had saved for months to afford mine, picking up extra shifts at the acting firm where I worked now. I wondered if they had planned to exclude me all along, if my ticket money had somehow funded someone else's cabin. "You know, what hurts the most?" I said, staring at my hands. They didn't even need an elaborate excuse. They could have just told me they didn't want me there. Instead, they used, "You knowing how much I care about you," to manipulate me. Nana Ruth reached for my hand, her grip surprisingly strong. "Sometimes people show you exactly who they are, even when they think they're hiding it," she said wisely. "The question is, what are you going to do with that knowledge?" I looked up at her, seeing something fierce and determined in her eyes. Little did I know, Nana Ruth had been watching our family dynamics more closely than any of us realized, and she had plans of her own. as I sat with Nana Ruth in her living room. My phone buzzed again, this time. It was a group text from my cousin Na, who didn't know I'd been excluded from the Lake Michigan retreat. She had meant to send vacation photos to everyone in the family group chat, not realizing I wasn't supposed to see them. My heart sank as I scrolled through the images. There was Sophie Collins wearing the sundress I had helped her pick out for the trip. My parents lounging by the pool, cocktails in hand. The whole family gathered for a formal dinner, all dressed up and laughing, but what caught my eye was my Donna Collins diamond necklace, the one Nana Ruth had given her years ago, meant to be passed down to both her daughters on their 30th birthdays. She gave it to Sophie Collins, already, didn't she? I asked, showing Nana Ruth the photo, even though I'm the older one, even though we were supposed to share it. Nana Ruth leaned forward to look at the picture, her expression hardening. "That necklace has been in our family for 3 generations," she said quietly. "Your great-grandmother split her jewelry between her daughters equally. That's why I gave it to your mother with specific instructions." Then, Nana Ruth revealed something that made my blood run cold. The Lake Michigan retreat hadn't been paid for with my parents' money at all. 2 months ago, she'd given them $15,000 to plan a getaway. Explicitly stating it was for all of us, instead, they had used my portion to upgrade their own cabins and book extra excursions. "I've been watching," Nana Ruth continued, her voice heavy with disappointment, "for years. I've seen how they treat you differently. I kept hoping they would change, that they would realize what they were doing. But this is the last straw." She stood up and walked to her desk, pulling out a thick manila envelope. "I wasn't going to show you this yet, but you need to know. I've been keeping records every time they favored Sophie Collins, every time they've taken advantage of your kindness, every penny they've spent differently between you two. Inside the envelope were bank statements, photos, emails, and handwritten notes spanning years. My hands trembled as I read through them. The truth was laid bare in black and white. The pattern of favoritism wasn't just in my head, it had been. Calculated, consistent, and deliberate. But why? I whispered the weight of years of gaslighting and denial crashing down around me. Why did they always make me feel like I was imagining it? Nana Ruth's eyes flashed with a determination I'd never seen before, because that's what people do when they know they're wrong. Wrong. They try to make you doubt yourself, but not anymore. Tara, not anymore. The family Lake Michigan retreat was scheduled to last 7 days as I sat in my St. Paul condo the next morning going through Nana Ruth's documentation. My phone lit up with a text from Sophie Collins. Donna Collins said, "You're spreading lies about us. Why can't you just be happy for once, instead of trying to ruin everything?" I stared at the message, anger building inside me. They were still trying to make me the villain. Even after what they'd done, instead of responding to Sophie Collins, I did something I'd never dared. Before I posted the truth on social media. Funny how being lied to about my grandmother being hospitalized, just so my family could exclude me from a vacation, somehow makes me the problem. I wrote, attaching Sophie Collins' best vacation ever photo. Even funnier how the Lake Michigan retreat was paid for with money that was meant to include. Leah Collins sat on her bed, clutching her phone, heart racing. Her father's voice echoed loud and bitter in her mind. "Take down that post now," he spat. The tension hanging thick as rain hovered outside her window. Tara felt trapped, the distant hum of traffic muted behind the pounding of her heartbeat. Would she choose to stay silent? Or would she expose the truth hidden behind a facade of family loyalty? That morning, moments before, she had slipped down the rabbit hole of deception, sifting through the manila envelope. Nana Ruth's thick handwriting laid bare the years of her family's skewed favoritism. Each statement was a stark reminder of how different her life had been compared to her sister, Sophie Collins's. Leah could now see it all, precisely calculated, aimed at erasing her from the family narrative. "Why?" she whispered, the questions swirling like leaves rustling in an autumn breeze. What had she done to deserve this betrayal? "That's what people do," Nana Ruth had said, eyes burning with conviction. "They make you doubt yourself, but not anymore." Leah felt the weight of those words. She had been spending years trying to fit into an image that was never meant for her. Now, as the sun poured through her window, illuminating her scattered thoughts, she snapped into action, unleashing her truth. Within minutes, her post went viral, tearing down the curtain of secrecy. Family friends, shocked and appalled, flooded in with messages of support and shared experiences of their own. Even her cousins reached out, revealing the subtle injustices Leah had endured. Just as empowerment surged through her, the phone rang. "Leah, you need to take that down." Rick's voice was ice-cold, demanding control. "You're embarrassing the family." "Embarrassment?" she replied, strength blooming in her words. "You embarrassed the family when you lied, when you cut me out." The silence felt heavy between them, until it shattered with a threat. "You have no idea what we've protected you from." That left Leah breathless. What could her parents possibly be hiding? The words echoed, spinning like a lit fuse. "I need to know what's happening," she murmured to Nana Ruth on the other end. "They're trying to scare me." "Go to your email," Nana said, her tone a mix of fear and urgency. "I'm sending you something. It's time you knew everything." With trembling hands, Leah opened her laptop, her pulse racing. What secrets lay hidden in that email? The faint scent of rain filled the air, and Leah's heart thrummed in time with her mounting anticipation. This was bigger than a family getaway. It was about to shatter everything she thought she knew, and judging by Nana's fear, Leah was stepping into a storm that could truly change everything. Inside was a scan of a document dated 25 years ago, a trust agreement that made my breath catch in my throat, according to the paperwork my maternal grandfather had left behind. A significant fortune, before he passed away, meant to be divided equally between all his grandchildren when they turned 30. The trust was worth over $2 million, but there was more. A series of bank statements showed regular withdrawals from the trust over the years, money that had been used to fund Sophie Collins' dance lessons, her private school education, her college tuition, and even her recent wedding. All of it had been taken from what was supposed to be my share. "They've been stealing from you since you were 3 years old," Nana Ruth explained over the phone. "Your mother convinced the trustee, her brother Michael, to give her early access to your portion, claiming it was for your benefit. But as you can see, they spent it all on Sophie Collins." I finished my voice. Hollow, the numbers were staggering. Over $500,000 had been siphoned from my trust fund over the years, while I'd worked multiple jobs to put myself through college. Just then, another email came through, this time from my uncle, Michael Terra. "I can't keep quiet anymore. What they did with the crew, money was the last straw. I've attached documentation of every withdrawal they made from your trust. I'm so sorry. I should have stopped them years ago." The attached files revealed an even darker truth. My parents hadn't just spent my trust fund on Sophie Collins. They'd been embezzling money for themselves, too. The Lake Michigan retreat was just the latest example of their ongoing scheme. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" I asked Nana Ruth, trying to process the magnitude of the betrayal. "I only discovered the extent of it recently," she replied. "When I confronted your mother about it last month, she swore they'd pay it all back. That's when I gave them the Lake Michigan retreat money. It was a test terra. I wanted to see if they'd finally do the right thing. And they failed spectacularly," I said bitterly. "Yes, but their failure has given us exactly what we needed. Proof your Uncle Michael has agreed to testify about their manipulation of the trust, combined with my documentation and the Lake Michigan retreat incident. We can take legal action." I finished a surge of determination. "Replacing my shock better than that," Nana Ruth said, and I could hear the steel in her voice. "We can make sure they never hurt you again. Check the second attachment in my email." I clicked it open and gasped. It was Nana Ruth's will. Recently updated, she had made me the sole heir to her estate, which I now learned included controlling interest in the family company where my father worked as CEO. They're about to discover, Nana Ruth said firmly that their actions have consequences the next morning. I met with Uncle Michael at a cafe in downtown St. Paul dark circles under his eyes suggested he hadn't slept much, and his hands trembled slightly as he handed me a thick folder. These are copies of every document, every transaction. He said quietly, I've already sent everything to the family attorney. Your parents, they're going to try to fight this Tarara. They've already called me 6 times since I sent that email. What are they saying? I asked, flipping through the damning evidence of years of financial manipulation. They're claiming it was all done with your best interests in mind, that they were protecting you from having too much money too young. He shook his head in disgust. But I found something else. Something they don't know? I know about. He pulled out another document, this one showing a series of recent transfers to an offshore account they're planning to leave the country. Tara, they've been moving money around, preparing for something. The Lake Michigan retreat wasn't just a vacation. It was a test run. They were checking if their passports would raise any red flags. My blood ran cold. They're planning to run with what's left of your trust fund. Yes, and Sophie Collins involved. She's been helping them set up accounts, and her Leah Collins stood frozen, her heart pounding in her chest as Nana Ruth's voice echoed in the empty kitchen. The faint smell of rain seeped in through the window, mingling with the tension thick in the air. Her phone buzzed violently in her hand, a cacophony of anxiety shaking her to the core. Shadows loomed across the glass cabinets, every flicker reminding her of the fragile trust, now splintered like shattered glass. Outside, sirens wailed, a haunting mixture of hope and dread. She threw on her jacket, determination igniting her pulse. Would she reach them in time before everything, money, memories, her sense of belonging, slipped away for good? That morning set off a chain reaction. Leah met Uncle Michael in a dim cafe in downtown St. Paul. His weary eyes spoke volumes. These are copies of every document, every transaction, he whispered, handing her a thick folder. Her eyes darted over the mountain of evidence of betrayal. They'll try to deny it, but they've been moving money to an offshore account. His voice trembled, revealing both fear and urgency. Leah's stomach twisted. They were planning to escape, running off with what was left of her trust fund. Suddenly, her phone buzzed again. A text from Sophie Collins shattered the moment. You'll regret this. You're too late. Leah's skin prickled with nausea. Uncle Michael's face went pale as realization hit. Their family was spiraling into deeper deceit, and they were moving faster than she could keep up. Leah dialed Nana. It's bad, she blurted. Rick Collins cleaning out his office. I know, Nana replied with eerie calm. The authorities are on their way, but you need to get to the company. You're the new controlling shareholder. Panic surged through Leah's veins. They don't know yet, do they? No, Nana said, and that's our edge. She raced through her thoughts. It was time to act. Hurrying to her car, another text from Donna arrived. You ungrateful child. You'll regret this. Fear clawed at her insides, but for the first time it felt different. She had the truth at her back. The family company loomed ahead just as her parents emerged, boxes in hand, their expressions a mix of shock and anger. Sophie Collins was with them, eyes darting. What are you doing here? Rick barked, struggling to maintain his facade of authority. Yet Leah could see the fear flicker behind his eyes. Funny, she shot back with unshakable composure. I was about to ask you the same thing, especially since you're stealing from my company without permission. With every piercing word, the air crackled. Would this be the moment Leah finally reclaimed her place in the family, or would it all come crashing down around her? Up my phone, displaying the ownership documents, Nana Ruth transferred her controlling shares to me this morning, and as the new majority shareholder, I'm very interested in these boxes you're carrying. Would they happen to contain evidence of what you did with my trust fund? My mother's face went white behind them. Police cars pulled into the parking lot. Lights flashing, FBI agents emerged from unmarked vehicles, and I saw Uncle Michael's car arrived with Nana Ruth in the passenger seat. You don't understand. My mother pleaded, her voice shaking. Everything we did was for this family. No, I corrected her. Everything you did was for Sophie Collins, and now you were planning to run away with what's left of my money." I turned to my sister. "Did you enjoy the Lake Michigan retreat? Sophie Collins, was it worth it?" The FBI agents approached as Sophie Collins burst into tears. My father tried to pull her away, but it was too late. The truth had finally caught up with them all. 3 months later, I sat in Nana Ruth's garden in St. Paul, watching the autumn leaves fall while we shared our morning coffee. The FBI's investigation had revealed even more than we'd suspected my parents had embezzled. Not just from my trust fund, but from the company as well. They were now facing federal charges along with additional civil suits from shareholders. Sophie Collins had made a deal with prosecutors agreeing to testify in exchange for immunity. She'd moved to Minnesota, finally forced to support herself without our parents. Financial backing her last message to me was a lengthy apology, but some wounds run too deep for simple words to heal. "You know," Nana Ruth said, sipping her coffee, "your grandfather would be proud of how you handled everything. He always said, 'Money reveals people's true characters.'" I nodded, thinking of the changes I'd implemented at the company under my leadership. We'd established a scholarship program for employee EMP children and created a more transparent financial system. The business was thriving, built on integrity rather than deception. I never wanted any of this, I admitted. I just wanted to be treated fairly. Nana Ruth reached over and squeezed my hand. "Sometimes. Life's greatest blessings come disguised as its greatest challenges. You've turned their betrayal into something positive." She was right. I had found my strength, my purpose, and most importantly, my self-worth. That Lake Michigan retreat they took without me. It hadn't been the vacation of a lifetime. After all, it had been the beginning of their downfall and the start of my new life.